Your doctor checks for PSA. It comes back elevated. Suddenly you are in the biopsies, anxiety, and decisions you may never have needed. So here's the real question. Did that test actually help you, or did it start something that was never going to harm you in the first place? And that is why this topic matters so much, because PSA is not a single blood test for many men. It is a beginning of a cascade. So here's the real question. Did this test really help you, or did it just start a chain of events that were never really needed? Today I'm going to give you honest answer with actual data and with no agenda. I'm Dr. Chovanec, Associate Professor of Oncology, trained at Indiana University Cancer Center under Dr. Lawrence Einhorn. Prostate cancer screening is one of the most controversial topics in medicine there is today. And I'm going to show you exactly why by walking you through 4 major clinical trials ever done on this topic. Because data tells us a complicated story, and you deserve to know all of it. Not the simplified version, not the fear-based version, and not the overly optimistic version either. Before we dive into the studies, let me give you an honest summary. Yes, PSA screening can reduce mortality for prostate cancer. That is established. But the benefit is modest in absolute terms. And it comes with real cost, anxiety, overdiagnosis, unnecessary biopsies, treatment side effects in men that maybe didn't need to be treated in the first place. Both sides of this debate is supported by real data, and that tension between the saved lives and the best quality of lives and preserving the long-term health of the whole population is that critical point of this discussion. And it has not been resolved, not in 2025, not in 2026. And there's another layer to this. Prostate cancer specific mortality is projected to double by 2040, largely because we have higher life expectancy and the population is growing as well. So getting this incredibly difficult question of prostate cancer screening right is not just individual decision. It's a matter of public health. And for a man sitting in front of his doctor, it's also a personal question. What happens next if I take the test? Let me show you the numbers. The Göteborg screening trial is one of the biggest, most striking headlines in the field. About 20,000 men aged 50 to 64 screened with PSA every 2 years with a follow-up of 14. And the result, the 44% reduction in prostate cancer mortality. That is real, that is not a spin. But to make things more complicated, here's what happens if we translate it into real life. And I'm going to dive deeper into the statistic. Here, the cumulative risk of dying from prostate cancer drops from 0.9% to 0.5%, an absolute reduction of cancer death of 0.4%. So if we make this tangible, for every 1,000 men screened, there are 4 lives saved compared to 2 lives saved if we don't do this screening. And to achieve that, 293 men need to be invited for screening and 12 men need to be diagnosed with prostate cancer to save 1. And naturally, many of those diagnosed cancer represent population where those cancer would never hurt the people carrying them. And that part sounds very illogical because cancer should be a nasty, deadly disease. And this is probably the part where majority of men are not explained all these intricacies. The benefit is real, and with it, many men are pulled into the process that may not have been necessary for them. The authors of the study also said it plainly in the paper. The risk of overdiagnosis is substantial. And they added something very important, especially for older men, because PSA screening takes time to show benefit, and we need at least 10 years to see any. And due to this fact, they question the value of screening in men over 70 years old. The reason is simple. The time needed to see the benefit itself may exceed the life expectancy, while the harms happen immediately. So in this study, you already see quite a full picture. A strong relative benefit, that 44% risk reduction of death. Very small absolute benefit, 2 men in 1,000 probably benefits from screening and real harm to many men that didn't need to be treated. If you want clear, honest, and research-based guidance on cancer and survivorship, subscribe to my channel. I see from the analytics that many people return to my channel to watch but haven't subscribed yet. Subscribing ensures you do not miss the upcoming videos, and it helps me continue creating content that supports patients, survivors, and families. I'll even give you an example. Yesterday I had a phone call from my old schoolmate from university. She's a dermatologist and her dad is going through some process of diagnosing prostate cancer. He had some skin rash, so they decided to put him on cancer screening protocol. They found higher PSA, jumping up and down throughout the several months of diagnosing. They decided to go for a rectal biopsy, which was done, and they did discover Gleason 6 prostate cancer. Some experts nowadays even believe that Gleason 6 should not even be considered an active cancer. Maybe a precancerous lesion, but not dangerous by itself at the moment. Her dad acquired chronic prostatitis, so he has extremely painful perineal region. His PSA is jumping up and down still while on active surveillance, and he is very anxious that this cancer is going to harm him, and he's already experiencing a lot of unnecessary side effects for maybe overdiagnosing in his case. This is just one case, but it can be happening to any man deciding to go through the screening process, so you really need to know the ups and downs of every strategy. By the way, when he got antibiotic treatment, his symptoms resolved, which is great. Now, the most comprehensive data we have in 2025, the New England Journal of Medicine, this is the top tier medical journal, published 23-year follow-up of ERSPC trial, the largest prostate cancer screening trial ever conducted. In this study, after more than 2 decades, prostate cancer screening reduced prostate cancer mortality by 13% relative. But in absolute terms, the difference was 0.22%. In absolute numbers, that's about 1.6% mortality without screening and 1.4% mortality with screening. So again, this is a real measurable benefit, but again, very modest. And this study shown that to prevent one cancer death, 456 men need to be invited to screening and 12 men need to be diagnosed. And here's when it becomes uncomfortable. Only 16% of all PSA tests taken were elevated, and only 24% of biopsies confirmed cancer, which means most men who entered this pathway did not benefit. I have to disclaim here, the pathways used 20-25 years ago were a little less sophisticated than what we have today, and we honestly have to take that into account when interpreting this kind of study. So this New England Journal of Medicine published screening led to 27 additional prostate cancer diagnoses per 1,000 men, and these were mostly low-risk cancer. Probably a lot of these were already mentioned Gleason 6, which probably great proportion of today we do not consider that will ever need treatment. So what you're seeing here is not just a detection, it's also overdiagnosis. And that word matters because for a man who is just diagnosed with prostate cancer, this strikes immediate anxiety, fear of death, fear of severe suffering throughout my rest of my life. The authors themselves concluded the risk from overdiagnosis and harm by prostate cancer screening remains a critical concern. And remember, these are not anti-screening researchers. These people wanted to uncover the truth as close to possible as to what it is. And this is their conclusion after the 23 years of collecting data. So again, lives were saved, but many men are diagnosed and treated unnecessarily. Both are true. Now, to be fully honest, 2 major trials showed little to no benefit. The PLCO trial in the United States reported no significant reduction of cancer deaths from prostate cancer, but there is also a critical caveat. Many men in control group were already undergoing PSA testing. This is called opportune testing. So this really wasn't screening versus no screening. It was closer to organized screening versus opportunistic screening. That makes interpretation difficult and even controversial. Now, the CAP trial in the the UK took a different approach. Over 415,000 men were invited to take the screening test, and after 15 years, the mortality was 0.78% for those who went for screening versus 0.69% for those who didn't. An absolute difference of just 0.09%, very small. And here's the key insight. The screening increased detection of low-risk prostate cancers. But what it didn't do was increase the detection rate of aggressive, dangerous prostate cancers or metastatic prostate cancer. So what was being found? Mostly cancer that were harmless. And that is again overdiagnosis in numbers. So now you see the problem clearly. People who say screening works, and they are right, point to ERSPC trial and the Göteborg study. When people say it doesn't, they point to PLCO trial and the CAP study. Both sides are looking at real data. All of these studies have their own issues and disadvantages, and this is really why this debate is still unresolved. So where do I stand? I want every man who can be saved from prostate cancer to be saved. But I also want healthy men to remain healthy when there was no real need to diagnose them or treat them. Because the evidence shows that automatic wide PSA screening will diagnose many cancers that are harmless. Those men then face biopsies, anxiety, treatment decisions, and side effects. And this is all for the cancer that was never going to kill them, or for what modern medicine already tries to identify as a non-cancerous lesion. That is not acceptable to me. So I'm not against screening, but I am strongly against screening everyone automatically. Taking a PSA test should be a decision, not automatic solution. Because once you step on this pathway, it's very difficult to go back. Probably even impossible. The good news is medicine is evolving. Modern pathways now use risk stratification tools, imaging methods like MRI, targeted biopsy strategies, or safer biopsy strategy. And the idea is, of course, to better identify men who really need to be diagnosed in the first place. This breaks the old automatic link between the higher PSA number and the automatic biopsy. And in the real world, we are already seeing the decline in unnecessary biopsies, fortunately, and also that detection rate of non-aggressive or Gleason 6 prostate cancers. So the promise is real, but the long-term mortality data from these newer strategies are still being written. So we're gonna have to wait for several decades to see how the modern strategies are performing in future for us. So here's what I want you to take away from this. PSA screening can save lives. The benefit is modest in absolute terms. The harm is real. So single PSA test without a plan is not a screening program. An important thing, age matters. Testing and screening at the age above 70 may not be beneficial to all. This is where the life expectancy matters, because some of the men in 70 may be living through their 90s, but some are already so comorbid that their life expectancy is shorter than 10 years. If you are between 50 and 70, here's where the discussion is really important. Do not just get tested automatically, but have a real conversation with your doctor. Ask them all the necessary questions. And what you take into account is your risk, your values, and then knowing what you actually want to do with the result when you get it. So the most important point here is not only to know that incredibly difficult decision whether to take the PSA test or not, it's being able to understand where the result may lead to. And that conversation is what separates thoughtful modern medicine and non-personalized automatic medicine. Benefit is real, the harm is real. Both these statements are true in the same time. That is why this remains so controversial. Even world experts are discussing this and providing different perspectives. And I believe this decision should be yours, made carefully with good information and with a doctor you trust. If this video helped you, share it with someone who needs it, a partner, a friend, a father, and leave your questions below. I read everyone. I'll see you in the next one.